Yes.
John, just a minute. It's not
Okay.
live yet.
All right. I'll wait till we're live.
Just a minute. Okay. You are live now.
Thank you. We'll start the May 12th DRC meeting at 10:01 a.m. Call the meeting to order. We'll get started. The first item on the agenda is the McMullen Residential Final Subdivision application review. I'll pull up the, sure I got the right sheet. Apologize there. So this is a proposed development. They received preliminary approval about 18 months or so ago in 2018. Originally, it was proposed to be a twin home development located, kind of give an idea, you've got State Road 198 heading north out of town. The Maverick is located here. So this is Main Street and State Road 198. Keep going, you got the first right-hand turn that comes off of State Road 198, the residential development up on the east bench. And it's that first intersection. There's a proposed 16 units were proposed there. They have since requested moving towards from a twin homes type development to a detached single family development on there. So that was looked at, that proposal was internally reviewed. We took that to Planning Commission as well as City Council to discuss that potential change. And I was supported and looked at favorably by both Planning Commission and City Council to move from a twin home type development to a single family. So that's what they've proposed and what we're viewing today. Yes, it's 16 units. This is a final subdivision application. A couple of notes on there. They will say they'll be from, was it Lambert all the way down to 150 North, which is that road is built down there on that side. All the curb and gutter is installed. However, with this development and with the utilities that need used up to there, that will be removed, and that road will be rebuilt once all those utilities are stuck through there. So with that, I will turn down, leave down here, and we'll just roll through the committee, starting with the fire department. If they have any concerns, comments.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Move down to administration. Okay. Wade.
Road overlay after they're done.
Correct. They will. They'll do their trench patches, and then after that they'll overlay the whole road. 2-inch overlay over the whole thing. So, okay. Rod. Okay. Randy, have anything from?
I went through those. The only address adjustments was the ones on lot 16 and lot 1 on Lambert and 150 North. I made some slight adjustments on those. The others don't really match the grid, but they match well with what's across the street. So
okay. Okay. Let me move to, we've got red line comments from engineering and planning and zoning. So Jason, you?
I just would note that because this has gone to a single family product, there's no requirement to go to the ARC to get approval for architectural renderings. However, because this is still in a PUD, there are still some base architectural requirements that I want to make note of as they, as builder builds these homes. So it's just important to remember that there still are some architectural requirements, just not to the extent as it would be if it was twin homes.
Okay, just a couple of engineering comments, well, some planning comments, really some cleanup and label items to make things more legible on the plat. And as Randy noted, there are the addressing comments are included on this. You'll need to, oh, I apologize. Robert, are you able to hear us? I didn't confirm that before we got started. I apologize for that. You able to hear us? You may need to unmute your microphone to verify that for us. Let's see if I can do that.
as well, so we will include that in there, yes.
Oh, sorry. Wrong one, sorry. Robert, you able to hear us?
Okay,
I can hear you. Are you able to hear me?
Great. Yes, I can now, so.
Good, thank you. I'm
There we go.
a little technically challenged.
So. Well, I was having some technical issues myself, so. Okay, no. So on that, again, Robert, just a couple other minor cleanup items when it comes to labeling on the plat and ensuring that you coordinate with the post office to verify the location of a mailbox unit for them for the delivery of mail. One thing that they've been pushing for is those get put in before or shortly in accordance with homes being built so that they can properly connect people to properly deliver mail. So, and those are kind of the most of their main just cleanup items along with the plat. So, do you have any questions, Robert?
Oh, Jade, I see you, or I think, John, I see you've got these red line. Would you forward those to Scott, please?
Yep, we'll forward, once we finish this up, we will forward these we'll get these to Scott, and so he can get them addressed, and depending on the action of DRC today, move forward in the next few steps. So.
Okay, fantastic.
So.
I'm sorry I was a little bit late joining, so this I get doesn't look like there's anything major, John. So that's
Yep, we went through there wasn't any major comments from the DRC at this point. So.
okay.
Motion?
I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion that
I got one question. The 885 East, 150 North, is that the only one on 150 North?
Right here.
Yeah,
Yes.
because that road doesn't go down yet, does it?
At this point, it does not connect to the west.
So that's kind of tricky for public safety when you just have one with the rest of them all being on. They're probably going to face Peach Street. Peach Street anyway. If we can have it a Peach Street address, the same with the one up off Lambert. No, I don't know which way they face the house. But I would bet it'll face Peach Street. Okay, if it's going to face Peach Street, make it a Peach Street address instead of an 885 East, 150 North, because that's the only access for them is off Peach Street, and that'll be kind of confusing. Same at the top end where it comes off of Lambert, if they can just make that instead of a 900 East, because I don't see them using Lambert as their approach. No, I don't either. I think both those will face Peach Street, but they have the option we don't have. Okay, so if it faces Peach Street, it'll be a Peach Street. Okay.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so that was just a question in regards to how the addressing would be done on these two corner lots as we roll forward. So the preference would be that these lots, both to say with the house, we'd anticipate they would front onto Peach Street for addressing to make it easier for contact there. So, okay, with that, any other comments? Not, I'll look for a motion.
okay, I'll make a motion.
I have a
that
quick
we-
question if I can.
Okay, this is Scott.
This is Scott Peterson. Just on the, is the post office at the meeting? Like, because if they are, they could tell us where that mailbox should be.
I don't know. John Mendenhall, are you able to connect with us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
He's not. Oh, yeah.
Can you hear me, John?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. We can hear
Oh,
you, John.
okay.
Can you hear us?
Realistically, yeah, I can hear you. I need it somewhere between lots 1 and 4, because right now our line of travel, we come up Lambert, we turn right, and then we're gonna turn left up 230 North. So if you can have it in the first 4 lots, you got 16 units, so you'll just need 1 box for 16. If you put it in those first 4 lots, it would be perfect. Anywhere in those first 4 lots.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
And then my last comment, the comment about the Utah County Recorder stamp.
Okay,
I don't know how new this is. We've been going back and forth with them on this too, and that where we've left a piece of our border out in that bottom right corner. That's why, is to accommodate their stamp, because I guess it can't slide the physical Mylar into their machine farther. So
okay. Let's say, as long as that's usually just been a comment that they've been giving to us lately. on
I
a
think
lot
I've
of
got
them.
them backwards though. It needs to be moved over. So
Yeah, this one would need to be located
Yeah.
over on the right there. So,
got it. Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
okay. Okay, with that, look for motion.
Are we sure we're ready for motion?
I believe
Okay, I'll
so.
make a motion that we grant final approval or we approve the final plat for the McMullen residential subdivision with the conditions that the red lines be addressed, that the mailbox be placed on lots 1, 2, 3, or 4, and that architectural requirements be met for a standard PUD subdivision.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, Scott, we'll work on getting these red line comments over to you. And we'll get the process rolling to get this going. So. Thank you,
Thanks.
Scott. Thank you, Robert, and we'll get those to you. Yep.
Hey, thanks, John. Sure appreciate being able to join you by Zoom. This is fantastic. Thanks.
It's technology can be really good for us. So, okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
So the next item on the agenda is the Byland. We'll verify that we have the representatives
Jeff Knight.
for that. Is it Jeff and the Weston?
I think it's just Jeff.
Yeah, this is Jeff. I am here.
Okay. Is there anyone else that's going to be joining us as well?
Weston should be. I know he was waiting to get in. And John Byland, the property owner,
Okay.
was planning on it. He had to run. They own the Dairy Queen next door to this property, and he had to go pick up some supplies. So he was going to try to call in.
Okay. And Weston, are you able to join us?
He just sent me a text and said he was still in the waiting room of the call.
You can click on see waiting.
He's in there now, John.
Okay, there he is.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Okay.
Oh,
Oh, I just got Weston. Now he just communicated with us. So. All right. Is there a way I can move this a little bit so I can? There we go. Okay. So this is the proposed commercial development, commercial building located up along similar area, State Road 198. For reference, you've got Stringham's hardware store here, and you've got the Dairy Queen located right here. So it's on that vacant parcel between those two. As part of this, development, this is the second time that we've reviewed it. It is at that point there was some comments in regards to access and engineering comments, as well as some again access, how they're going to connect to the property. The North was tabled back in March, I believe, and this is their second submittal for that. So along those lines, it's a commercial full unit commercial building. I believe there's three or four units. There's 3 units in here, with potential for a restaurant being in there. So with that brief background, we'll start with going around the table with DRC, starting with fire. Do you guys have anything?
Yeah, right now the 26-foot fire access is located at the west portion.
Right through here.
We would actually need that to be moved to the east to be closer to the building, to give us our full access around the building, to be within the limits there. So with that, we would also just need to make sure that we do have our 28-foot turning radiuses. Other than that, that's all I've got.
And that turning radius is around these planter boxes right through here, correct? Okay. And as well as on this one, that'd be accurate, pulled in. Okay. Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Ben?
I don't have anything. This is great.
Okay. Wade? Rod?
I'm just curious, what is the purpose of them little islands, the liner boxes? Is it just
To protect parking, right?
It's what?
To protect the parking from being sideswiped or something.
Yeah, beautification. It's been in our standards for a while.
Yeah,
If
so
those
those
came out, would that solve the fire's issue?
I don't think we.
No, I
I
think someone would park there.
don't believe we have the.
Yeah, but you can push those out there. Right?
So those planter strips are required per our city code or the city landscaping code. So
The only reason I mention it is because he gets a lot of traffic at the Dairy Queen. A lot of your folks or travelers that are towing some kind of trailer behind them, or construction workers, and they sort of jam up Maverick's parking lot, and they park right there right now. And so if we go pinch them down even more so, would it be better to remove those islands? That's just my thought.
Well, it almost looks like the islands are right in the middle of that egress path. They have to come in and then kind of dog around them to go back out. It's not a straight shot through and through.
So, I mean, just a thought, just throwing it out there.
Well, and you go look at her busted when they're out on the park.
So, okay. And say, I do know those are part of our parking landscaping requirements, is that those end islands need to be around those, the parking stalls. So for our code. Anything else? Randy?
The property address shows just 90. I think it's 90 North. If I remember right, but which works, but there's going to be 3 units. I wasn't aware of how many units were going in there. We can look at that and assign 3 different addresses. That's what they're doing.
So we want to do 3 different addresses, or would we want to do a single building address and there are units A, B, C?
I think you'd want to do that because I think they have the flexibility where someone might take two the spaces
The entire
for one
unit.
business. So instead of jumping to conclusions of having 3 separate entities, we know there's one already there, but the remaining ones could be joined together. They could be 2 separate. We don't know. So
It'd work either way. So whichever way they want to do it, we can just go with just the 90 on the building if you want. But then do ABC. I don't know, is your Is John available?
John Mendenhall, John Mendenhall, what's your thoughts on that?
So the same thing would be said if you use addresses. So if you use 90, 92, 94, and one entity, let's say 92, was subleasing 92 and 94, they would just still use 92. You wouldn't use 94. I don't like the suite numbers because of it just causes problems later for me because the tenant got mail at 90 number A and we returned it to the center is insufficient or we gave it to the neighbors, or it just causes problems whenever you have suites. So I prefer never to use a suite. When you get into a lot of buildings or this, if they want to do it, they want to do it, and we'll roll along. But I'd like to discourage it because the same thing, you got A, B, and C. Same thing could be 90, 92, 94. If that makes sense.
Yep.
6%.
Yep, kind of sixes either way. So
I'll go
with
through
preference
and-
under the 90.
and assign addresses.
Okay, we'll work on with our building official Randy and work on getting address comments for those 3 units posted on there. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Jason, do you have anything? Or
We'll go
we've got
through
a
together. We got some red lines on there. Jeff, I think one specific thing that I'll bring up is we've talked about the location of your dumpster enclosure. As we've looked at it closer, there's a couple different things with that could be a problem. I think there might have been a variation in grade from that dumpster location to the property to the east. But along with that, with the parking stalls where you have them, they need to have some a 5-foot pull out area, if you will, or a place for them to reverse into. So there's a couple different standards that are in question with the location, that dumpster location. So as we talked, we looked at this and reviewed it. We've decided that it probably just needs to be in a different spot so that it's going to be in harmony with a number of those different provisions.
So are we,
Okay.
what about putting it on that other, on one point we had showed it in that corner, as you have those north parking stalls along the north property line. Yeah, just to the left of that where you have your cursor, there's kind of a triangular space. Yeah, in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Can it be a side? I mean, does the dumpster need to be accessed directly, or if the dumpsters, I think the Dairy Queen, the dumpsters are on the side of the drive lane coming through. I'm wondering if we could put them in that space.
You can have it on an
have
angle.
the gates open to them to the south.
You can put it really wherever you want, as long as you meet the requirements. So it can be on an angle. It doesn't have to be parallel to the curb. A lot of dumpsters are on an angle just because it's easier to have the trucks pull in and get them. So.
Okay.
On the engineering side, not to go over and say there's still a few outstanding ones. First of all, just again, a repeat comment from previous. Because you are connecting onto UDOT facility and State Road 198, you will need to get approvals from them and show that you have approval for them to connect onto their right of way. There's also in regards to the improvements that you've got going along there, you've shown an open face or a spill curb where the curb doesn't collect the water, it spills it out onto the roadway. That seems that's what the purpose of the curb and gutter is, especially in this spot, would be to collect that and send it and to control it as it gets off instead of spilling out over the access there. Again, there's some concern that stormwater will spill out. It's on the next sheet but the storm water is still going to flow out and onto the road that was a previous comment.
So just real quick, so part of that with the way we designed that is because that's what the existing slope of the road does right now. 'Cause I know that we had talked with the Stringhams, like John had talked to the Stringhams, and they weren't really looking at doing any improvements on their site right away. And so I guess in order to kind of just clean up our side of it, that's how we're showing with that curb and gutter, because without tearing up that whole drive access or drive aisle, because part of that is like, I mean, obviously it's offside our improvements, offside our lot. And so we're kind of limited to what improvements we can really do without, you know, getting Stringham's 100% involved with it, and doing improvements that will help, I guess, mitigate that whole situation.
So essentially you're putting it in, but you're going to match that existing asphalt. Is that correct from what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Because right now it flows across to the north anyway, and so to basically, so we don't have to tear up that whole drive access, we're trying to mitigate the impacts there, construction impacts for both the Stringhams and then involved with. I mean, we obviously want to clean it up so it looks, you know, decent and good for right now, but we just don't know time-wise and when Stringhams are actually going to come in and do improvements on their side.
Okay, so the water, say the water flows north across this, is that what you're indicating? So you're just gonna essentially line the asphalt and move it?
Correct, yep.
Okay, that's something we'll look at a little bit more as we kind of roll through there. I've got part of that, you know, you're putting that curb inlet in, like the storm drain line in here, except you've only got one curb inlet that would catch any fall here, but you've got a considerable amount of water, it looks like, that would flow out and through there. So that's one of the kind of a concern that we've got looking at the grading is associated with that.
Okay.
So we feel I'll switch over to this sheet that kind of talks about that. Right here, there's potential, some way to intercept the water as it's flowing out. Say you've got all this area that flows out into that drive access here. So there's got to be some way to, whether it be a cross gutter or something, that we need to catch any storm water here and get it to this inlet to minimize the amount of storm water that's flowing out.
Okay, and that definitely makes sense.
So, kind of go back to this sheet. Yes, sir.
Just to go along with that, UDOT may have something to say about that as well. So that will be something that we would look to see if they have any comments regarding all of that infrastructure that would be within their right of way. We're not going to dictate that, but they may come back with other comments that something else needs to be done. There may be another sump that's needed down at the bottom or something. We'll just have to look and see what their wait and see what their comments are going to be.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and we're working with John Lundell on that too with UDOT, so we're just working through that, those concerns and everything else too with them. So we'll definitely keep you informed with what we determine with those guys.
That's probably not John Lundell. That's the Santaquin's John Lundell, but I don't know if there's any others there, but working with UDOT.
There's only one John Lundell.
Sorry, Byland, John Byland. I'm sorry, my bad.
You're fine.
So John, on that, to be clear, you have submitted and are working with UDOT. That's not something that you're needing us to facilitate then?
No, we can work through that with them, for sure. Unless, I mean, I know UDOT, my experience with them in the past is that they do like to have the city involved from the get-go too. So if there's like a certain contact that you have over there, I know John Byland has been, I know we were kind of waiting on making sure this is the layout and the design that we wanted to have for this project, to get everything submitted to UDOT for their pre-application meeting. And so we can get that set up. And is that something the city would like to be involved with as far as the pre-application?
I don't
We'll
know
be
if we
involved
need to-
as much as we need to be, but
Yeah, as much as we need to be. Basically, at the end of the day, we just need their sign off that says, yep, what you're proposing is going to work for their requirements.
Okay. Yep, sounds good. Well, we'll definitely, anything that we get from them, we'll forward on to you and let you know for sure, so.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we would just need a statement and even an email that basically says the attached plans are approved by UDOT or they don't have any exceptions or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
one comment comes, it's in regards to a grease trap. So, right now you're indicating that you're going to do an interior grease trap for any restaurants or any other business that would need a grease trap. There's some concerns on an engineering side in regards to that any interior grease traps could be just bypassed or removed. And so all of the potential grease, other contaminants could just make it into our sewer system and cause potential issues there. I don't know if there's any other building codes that would regulate that, or
I
if,
reviewed their plan for that, and they just watched inside. I mean, it can foam so that they can't bypass.
okay. So it'd be interior under a sink or something, or would it be under the slab?
Just
Or
inside the door, just before it goes out the building, is what they proposed.
okay,
So is what they're showing okay?
It is as far as building, if engineering's got an issue with it, then we'll have to make them do something different.
Wade, do you
Meets
have
the
any?
codes for building.
Just issues on that water. Didn't do with it.
Oh, on that grease trap in
Oh,
particular,
it's trapped.
whether it's interior of the building or
It's an
exterior,
inspection. Well, we can inspect it.
that we'd be able to have access to it and inspect it if it needs be. So I don't know if we need some
Yeah.
agreement to do that. I don't know if that's within our ability
Not
to,
on this building, that one you showed.
so. Okay, well, we'll work on getting kind of finalized up on that one, whether or not that's, and get feedback to you on it. Yeah, we've talked about the trash enclosure, talked about the parking. Yes,
Hey, if I could add, good morning. This is John Byland, another John. On
Welcome to the
that
club.
on the grease trap. It's a great name. On the grease trap, just my discussions I've had with Marco's Pizza. He's got 15 stores in the Salt Lake County area and a couple in Utah County, and he has never had to put a grease trap in. It's one like we've spec'd here on this drawing, and he said he's never had an issue with it. Where it's a pizza place, there's very, very little grease involved with the type of ovens they use. It's very, very minimal. Just thought I'd add that.
okay, thank you. We'll work on getting that comment looked at as we roll through.
Well, I have a question for Randy on that. Randy, does that meet building code?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So from a public works
He's
site,
building code, and I did get it to Wade. He's looked at it as well, so.
Well, the comment on that is it forever
For
gonna be a
access.
pizza place or may it?
right,
change?
that's the question we have, and that's the purpose for a grease trap is to be able to protect our system. If somebody could take that grease trap out easily, then all that grease makes it into our system.
So
I would-
just to clarify, it is underground. It's just located, it's in the under slab plumbing. Is that accurate? It's just not say a
exterior to the
vault
building.
exterior to the building. Is that correct?
This is
Go
Jeff,
ahead, Jeff.
Chapman, I'm the architect. Yeah, so we've done them both where sometimes they're just right below and right connected to the 3-compartment sink. So that any dishes, anything that gets cleaned in that 3-compartment sink runs through that and it's an above grade. We have done them where they're under the slab too. I don't know what the other Marcos locations have done. But on other projects I've worked on where we've had them interior, we've done both. In this case, my anticipation was that it would be basically an above ground box, that's right next to the 3-compartment sink. And I would assume that would be part of the health inspections because it's often driven by the health department, health codes as well. And so that they would be inspecting that as well when they do their inspections of the restaurants, and that they'll be checking to make sure that 3-compartment sink, is connected to that grease trap. And then, if there's a future tenant, if Marcos leaves and some other restaurant tenant comes in, they would have to submit, their plans and get approved. And if they're, and show that and demonstrate at that point, if they have a restaurant facility that would require more grease trap capacity, then that would be something the city could require at that time. And John, you can speak to this too, but I don't believe, I think that the Marco's Pizza would probably be the only real restaurant use, maybe other juice bars or something like that in the other spaces, but I don't know that the anticipation is that they would have additional restaurants in addition to the Marco's Pizza at this point.
And that is correct. Putting in more restaurants would only hurt our Dairy Queen business. So we don't anticipate doing anything that would be a direct competition to us.
Well, so again, the question is long-term, and 20 years from now, when none of us are here, or fewer of us are here,
Hey,
what is
I'm
that?
not that old.
I am, so that's
Enjoy your retirement.
That's the question is, and John, maybe we can look at John Lindell, maybe we can look at city code and also maybe have some conferral with the health department and figure out what their thoughts are on that and see if those types of things. But we're looking at longevity for protection of the city's system. That's the biggest concern that we have and why we require what we require.
We'll update that comments according to with dig into code a little bit more on those to verify and have those other conversations in regards to that, the grease trap there. So there's some notes on parking. It's our understanding that you're wanting to do a shared parking agreement to share parking with the Dairy Queen to the south. So
that'll be on planning commission tonight, Jeff. And I did see that you sent me an email. Looks like maybe you've tried to address some of the comments we've given you thus far. The only thing that we see missing in that is just a little bit more detail about concerning how many parking stalls are going to be shared rather than just it being shared between the two businesses. So I think that extra little bit of detail will help in the long run. If these buildings were to end up changing hands and be separate ownership, we just want to have it clear whose parking is whose and which parking could be shared.
And I sent over a new parking agreement this morning with a little more specific on that.
Great.
There's some cleanup notes on here. Number 17 on this sheet does not correlate with the note 17 on the previous sheet. So just some cleanup on that side of things. Grading, we've already discussed the storm drain issues. One thing to note is the curb inlets, the inlet boxes need to have a 3-foot sump essentially in the bottom of that for pre-treatment, so that you can clean out the inlet a lot easier than you can clean out the sump located in the parking lot. We require pre-treatment along those lines. The inlets for the bypass that run the 36-inch pipe that runs along the north property line that catches the runoff off the east bench, a 3-foot sump will be needed in those to help collect any gravel or anything that would make it to those, so we can easily clean those out prior to making to the pipe that goes under the I-15. Those are, and that's a grease trap comment. And then, so that's all the comments from planning, zoning, and engineering.
Can I make
They're
a
kind of
comment,
summary.
John? So this is not in violation of a requirement. It was right close to being an issue, but your drive-through window, your first window, you have just enough space to queue a few cars. I think 3 cars is what you're supposed to have. I would just, I don't know how difficult this would be for you to do, but I would just continue to urge you to, if you can put that window as far to the east as you possibly can, or south, however you look at the kind of the southeast, I guess. But if you put that as far to the southeast side of that building as you can, that'll give you more queuing space, and therefore that'll prevent you from having queuing cars being in the way of traffic flowing through the development and circulation and whatnot. So you technically meet the requirements where you're at, but we anticipate your business will be well used, and people will be excited to go get a pizza. And so that's just something that really it's for your benefit to make sure that you've got good flow and that you've got plenty of space for people to queue and dine at your restaurant.
So to build on that a little bit, is there enough space here for vehicles to make that turn without bumping into that curb or running up over the curb? Say there's a lot of large pickup trucks here in Santaquin that I don't know if that would make a turn. So may need a tracking plan just to show, but that's just a thought, if that's too tight for vehicles really to make that turn. So
yeah, we can check that turning radius. I know that when we were working with the John Byland's been working with Marcos on the layout for their space, and we've been, they preferred having the pickup window further to the west, so that it's at or right there by where basically on the interior, when you come in and pick up your pizza and there's somebody working that counter, they wanted that pickup window located in that same location. So it's the same, basically that same station. And then that keeps all of their back of house space free in the back. We can, we can talk to them and see if there's a way they can adjust their layout to push the pickup window further to the east, which was our, that we expected that would obviously be your preference, and generally, it makes the most use of that queuing space. So we're just trying to find the balance between, the site
like I said,
requirements and their internal requirements.
It's just a suggestion. I mean, obviously, if you get too many people queuing there, it's going to hurt business in
Right.
your commercial site plan, in your commercial building. So, we want to have good circulation for both you and for the community. So it's just, like I say, I think you technically meet the requirement, but it's just a suggestion to try and help circulation be a little bit better, so that you can get as much business as you possibly can in there.
Yeah. Okay.
okay, are there any other comments, questions? Okay. If not, I'll look for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the site plan based on meeting all the requirements for the red lines from engineering, planning, and resolve any issues that might occur with the grease trap.
Okay, have a motion that we approve the site plan with planning comments, that they address planning comments, engineering comments. The grease trap was, what else? There's one other. Is that it?
It will be assigned those address, 3 addresses.
And the addresses will be addressed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we'll work on getting these red line comments back over to you, and we'll work on getting them addressed and taken care of. So,
Sounds great.
hey, thank you, Jeff. Thanks, John. Thanks, Weston.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the Orchard Vistas concept plan. And we'll wait on that one. I'm as this rotated. Okay. Looks like we have Ryan Johnston with us and Scott Peterson. Are you guys able to hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Let's see, yeah, Scott, I can hear you as well.
Great. Okay, this is a proposed apartment development located directly north of the new grocery store being built here. For reference, you got the grocery store and 200 North that runs along the north border of it. They have a development agreement that was approved by the city council about 4 or 5 months ago. First of the year it was approved, and this is their concept plan to get rolling on that development agreement. And so on this one, you say there's no action required on this. This is a concept to give them any feedback that we as DRC has in regards to any technical concerns or anything that they may run into, they need to take in consideration as we roll forward with that. So as such, we'll start going around the room, starting with fire.
My only thing is, I don't know from the limited plans, but if these buildings are intended to be sprinklered or not, just kind of looking at it and with the access available, I would say that these buildings will need to be fire sprinklered, just due to access and equipment reasons here. That's all I've got.
Okay. Ben, anything? Wade?
Just a utility plan we want to look at the metering. 3 master meters, probably 2 4 and a 2. And then how the sewer is gonna work.
Okay. So with that, kind of build on that, our standards require that any multi-unit building with 3 or more requires a master meter. So you may be able to, depending on sizing and the anticipated flows into there, you could serve a few buildings off of potentially a 4-inch meter, or something that would be adequate to be able to provide those sewer. There won't be multiple meters. There will be, to try to minimize the amount of meters that would be needed to serve culinary wise to the units. Okay. Rod?
Am I reading that right? Just a single access?
No, they're showing 3 right now.
We've got an access here, the second access here off 200 North.
Where are they showing that?
Say again?
Where are they showing that on this plan?
Right here. So here's 200 North, And there's your access to on the east side, one located in the center. And they are proposing to connect to the access that's on the backside of the grocery store.
Sorry, I guess I'm just qualified.
So to kind of build on that, oh, I didn't bring up some of our comments, red lines, but one of our discussions is this connection onto the backside of the grocery store. There's some appears to be problematic in regards to that. Is one thing, you've got severe grades that go through here. You've got a kind of a straight thoroughfare that kind of works through here. If you've got potential traffic conflict issues as we approach this access, share that access. So
Goes from that onto the street, or is that too close to that?
It's too close.
That's too close to the driveway.
Right next to each other.
we've got a driveway here potentially.
The alternative that
Right
we've
here.
talked about for that access over there is obviously we want to have some sort of access on the west side of the development, because there likely could be a significant amount of people that want to enter the development from there.
Sorry, I'm pulling up our.
All right, give us a minute.
Sorry, I
We'll pull up
apologize
some
about
red
that.
lines.
Yep.
So instead of having it the ingress egress being at the very southwest corner, there's a designated right-hand turn lane to where maybe if it was put up a little bit north, you'd be able to have cars get into that designated right turn lane out of the way, but then have them turn in more, kind of the happy medium between the ingress egress for the grocery store and the 200 north. So maybe in lieu of that peninsula that's John's got a zero on, maybe you could put the access right there, and that would provide that separation from the two parking areas. Because right now those peninsulas are required to be equally spaced out and so on and so forth. So with that said, that's an alternative that I think it'd be good for you to look at, Scott and Ryan, to see if that can be a better way to let people access the west side of the development.
That would also help fire.
Yeah. Because if that, and I apologize, I didn't measure this beforehand. If that dead end right there is over 150 feet, we'd either have to have an approved turnaround or a pull through right there. So if that entrance actually came in midway, that would meet that need right there. So
One other thing, John, is snow loading in the parking lots. Get a snowstorm, where's that snow loading?
Yep. Yeah, something considers snow loading. Where is snow going to be handled on site?
That's gonna take a lot of your parking spaces up to pile of snow.
Yep. So need to be considered where you're going to push it.
Covered parking, so that would affect you guys as well.
I'm not showing any covered parking. I don't know if that's a requirement.
They aren't required, it's only in the
Okay. So covered parking isn't required within this development here.
But
So
it could help with snow. It might be something you want to consider, is having covered parking could make it less snow that you need to remove, and working around parked cars and whatnot.
one comment that was made that may also require sprinkling the buildings with that. So if you do covered parking, so just some items to consider there. Okay. Rod, any other Comments? Nope. Randy?
Nothing at this point.
Okay. So engineering and community development kind of roll through at the same time. Jason, if you want to.
I would
kinda
just
roll.
say that they're particularly the east side of the development is a little inconsistent with the exhibit that you showed the council and what was approved in the development agreement. The orientation of the buildings, there's a missing access that was going to connect the grocery store site to this. So just trying to be as consistent as you can with the plan that you've pitched to the council and gotten their approval for. We're going to be looking for consistency with that. Now, I know that plan wasn't necessarily reviewed closely, and there might be, some parking that they're looking for, but we need to stay as consistent as we can with that plan, since that's what the council saw and led them to approve a rezone and conditionally approve a rezone based until a development agreement was reached. So we're going to be looking for consistency as these plans move forward.
And just to note, 200 North and 5th East that are run along the north side and the east side of the development, those roads are not completely built out yet. The asphalt is in. They are putting the asphalt in. Basically just the surface improvements there as part of the grocery stores development, so they have appropriate amount of circulation and access. However, this development would be required to extend utilities such as sewer, water, pressure irrigation, and completely build out that side of the road as part of the corresponding side of the roads of the development. So as you roll forward, that'll need to be taken care of. And then with the anticipated amount of cuts that's going to happen along those roads, that an overlay would need to be placed over the top of those once those trenches are repaired and patched. As we roll through there. So those are kind of the major items that we discussed. Again, we've talked about master meters, and we'll provide all these comments to you via email. So are there any other comments, concerns, questions? Okay, if not, say there's no action needed on this, we'll do, Scott and Ryan, is we'll send these over to you so you have those. And in regards to maybe if you'll work with Jason Bond and Ryan Harris with community development on proceeding with the rest of the concept application portion, which includes a public hearing with the planning commission. So work with them to coordinate that and roll it forward.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda is the Gray Cliffs preliminary subdivision review. This is a proposed 500 unit subdivision located up on the East Bench, just north of the C.S. Lewis Academy. Again, I think we've got the applicants here in person, so won't be any Zoom attendees on this, I'm assuming, on this one. Again, it's a 500 unit development. It's kind of referenced, it's the old Sumption mining pit. There's kind of the mining scar that's remaining up in this area here. Again, it's a proposed planned unit development, an R10 PUD in here, and they provided we call it a yield plan that would be standard R10 zoning, and the amount of density increases does correlate with our with city code in the amount of densities they do. However, it is still a essentially rezone, so it's a legislative process on this. So this is our first time it's been brought to DRC for comments, and to kind of get your guys' feedback on this as we start rolling through the process and the preliminary plan of this. So some major items. One, there's major backbone road that rolls through the development down approximately the center of it, with two connections, proposed connections to State Road 198. Some comment, the culinary water pressure zones are kind of narrow through here. Essentially from most of the units that are in this green area, the dark green, could potentially be served by the booster pump. And then without a booster pump, sorry about that, and they'd be able to serve off of the current pressure zone systems that we have in place. But with that, we do have some of the attendants here. Know if we want to, for appropriate social distancing, have them come up, be able to sit at the table we can kind of discuss things. On this, just on the engineering and I believe planning community development standpoint, there's kind of three main items that would need to be addressed. The first is access. Right now, per their phasing plan, your first phase would be the construction of High Bluff Street and Great Cliff Drive over to Peach Street. I'm sorry, that's Cherry Lane. Thank you. That'd be the first phase. And then second phase would be this multifamily just north of there. And then the next multifamily phase, and then moving up into the single family phase. And then the final phase would be building this connection down to the north. Circulation wise, we mentioned this in the previous, I think we've mentioned this previous comments that were provided, is there's a lot of homes going through one intersection. There's essentially, until this was built, which is the last phase, you would have 490 units, homes going through one intersection. It's a lot of homes.
And that wouldn't work anyways, because we need that second access.
Yes.
So, well, for the first phase, but anything beyond phase A, you're going to be having too many homes on one access.
Yes. So you do have this second connection down State Road 198 for phase A, but again, you have one point where everything funnels to even on phase B. So looking at it, there's some sort of access will need to be provided. A secondary access will need to be provided. Assume it would be on State Road 198 that would allow for access going down. So that's one of the main items that need to be looked at in regards to that. The second was a previous comment made is in regards to the amount of homes that directly access Great Cliffs Drive. Again, kind of the same traffic issues. You've got essentially two roads that would funnel down to it, but these roads may not be used to access down through there as people come from the north, but you still have a lot of homes, a lot of cars backing onto a main road right down through there. So those two kind of correlate a little bit. Kind of wanted to see if there's any additional comments or discussion in regards to those two ones. The other one's a storm drain issue that we can get to after those. So I don't know, anyone have any comments, fire?
Regarding traffic?
Regarding traffic and the access to,
Can I walk up there so I can just.
Yep.
So I didn't understand, I don't understand these. So are these parking lots in here? Or are these just single units to back out, like Great Cliffs
on those units, they are set back so far from the road that it made sense to create a little U-shaped common shared driveway that access those 6 units. So instead of,
So they won't be backing out.
they won't be backing out.
It's
It's as you,
like a
so-
miniature frontage road, right?
yeah, it's just a little, it's a little
Get you off the
circular
road.
driveway that all those would access.
So these 3 units here wouldn't be backing out.
No, because if we had them direct back out there, it would be like a 65-foot long driveway. If
I
my
just
wife
wasn't
had to do
sure.
that, I would be nervous. It should be Bob. and
So-
Megan.
Your insurance premium would go up.
Yes, it would.
What would be the on-street parking?
She knows.
If there is or proposed, what would be the parking restrictions or requirements on this Gray Cliffs Drive?
So the cross section anticipates 2 11-foot travel lanes, and then an 8-foot parking is what the proposed cross section is. That does match our major local cross section, where you have the 2 travel lanes and the 2 8-foot parking on each side.
So you could have street parking on.
So potentially you could have street parking on both sides.
However, with so many driveways, there's
not room really for
much street parking.
to block and driveways every portion of it, because you've got 20 feet of driveway and then 5-foot spacing between those, 5-6-foot spacing between those.
Are you anticipating parallel parking in those little, what I call frontage
Yes.
road areas? So there'd be parallel parking
That's
opposite of
correct.
driveways?
Yes.
And then I also have some concern on this Great View as it goes down. That's a major collector, right?
That's our local road, the 55-foot right of way.
So
is
you
what
have
that one is.
vehicles could possibly be backing out or backing in all along these blind corners, right?
Yep. With
And what
a
would grade-
state
and I
grade, that's a
assume
10%
grade
grade.
too, right?
That's a shown 10% grade on those.
So to make sure our terminology is consistent, there's no collector roads in this. They were all being, the highest capacity road would be a major local road.
Yes.
So there's no collector roads.
You guys just confuse me with collectors and locals, you know?
Okay, just to make sure we're saying the same things. The collector road would be a significant road and would have a bigger cross section, but.
All I'm saying is there's gonna be a lot of traffic. on it.
Correct, yep, and that's the concern
So-
we have as well.
And then I also looked at the architecture, landscape, and we have trees all over the place. So I think you need to make sure that we don't get all those maple trees planted in, planter strips, making visibility with the grade even more. And then there's the other corner down that dumps onto Cherry, kind of the same issue for me. Just this area here on that curve. I don't know what the grade is on that. It's
That
probably
one's
not as
that
much
one's
of a
not as
grade.
great, not as
So
much
maybe
as
it would
great.
be okay, other than maybe this. I don't know, maybe it would be okay, but always makes me nervous when you have people backing out on a curve.
Mhm. Yep.
Those are the only other additional comments that I don't have on. Parking schedule.
Okay.
John?
Yes, sir.
So I don't think this has been talked about yet. We're probably getting there, but one of our city code requirements is that they submit a traffic circulation plan, right? If this large of a development, I wonder if a transportation study would help us to understand these things better and address those specific issues like driveways on steep curves, all that traffic backing out onto major local roads, all of that kind of stuff, to see what kind of recommendations or thoughts that a traffic plan has.
I think a traffic plan would be warranted with this development.
With addressing those specific items, that's what my recommendation would be, to give them the input that we've had from Chief Hurst and others as we've gone through this, and just see what that looks like through a transportation study.
Yep. Okay.
And I think your concern is valid and something that we can look at closer. They've only submitted a landscaping plan for phase A. And they've got a lot of great landscaping in there. We appreciate that, but maybe having landscaping in between the driveways and not necessarily on the park strip, that might be something to err on the side of caution to make sure that we're not going to be messing with visibility of people backing out of driveways.
What's the width on High Bluff?
High Bluff would be the asphalt width or the
Asphalt curb?
curb to curb? It's 38 feet, I believe, is what you have all through there. You have two 11-foot travel lanes and
It changes
16.
from Gray Cliffs down is the same as Gray Cliffs, that wider section through the commercial area. And then up higher,
This is a 55-foot
reduces
right away.
down just the-
So that part right there, what's the width on it?
From asphalt is 29. You have the gutters. You have 30. Yep.
That's gonna be ugly in a snowstorm on garbage day.
Yeah, it'll be tight up through there. So there are some.
That's when it snows.
Yep. So it sounds like a traffic study would be done for this development to help
We're
address
required
those.
to do a traffic study with you. We've already met with you preliminarily
Okay.
on the access points, and as part of their application process, we need to provide them a traffic study.
Okay.
So we'll just expand it a little bit to address those few intersection concerns that you have as well.
Okay, and then the other item that we've got that is a big one on the engineering side of things is your proposed 9.5 acre foot retention pond in this down here.
Okay.
We spoke on the phone about this. That's the sizing of that is large, and at this point, it's from your calculation show it's not adequate because it only accounts for the 25-year storm event. We need control of the 100-year, and that's a lot of water that needs to be controlled.
Okay.
And we have to retain the 25. The 100-year needs to be controlled per our code. So that, and again, that can be done with sumps, that can be done with pipes, that can be done with curb inlets, kind of taking that volume into consideration. But the amount of pipe that you have, I don't know if that adequately stores or controls that. We're trying, and without damaging any structures or land uses to the north and west of this pond. There's already an issue with flooding along State Road 198 in high runoff years when there's a lot of water, big rainstorm that are down here that could basically could be exacerbated. And there is the Highline Canal that's located just on the other side of State Road 198, and that one would not be able to accommodate a large influx of stormwater coming into it. So it was anticipated that had to be coordinated if you want to do that with the Highline Canal Company. But I would anticipate that would be a difficult thing to accomplish, to have them coordinate with you on that. So it's a large area, a lot of water that needs to be taken care of. That's to say our discussions a couple of weeks ago in regards to trying to do some sort of local control to help spread that out so it doesn't all go and hit that big pond in the bottom. Just some items that need to be addressed.
Right. And we're looking at that. The concern is any roads above Gray Cliff are all rock. So the potential to infiltrate water is zero.
Right.
And any land around Gray Cliffs, once you get down from the rock, it turns to sand. And I'm talking with our geotech to see how comfortable he is of just saturating the sand in that area to infiltrate some stormwater. When we talked before, you know, we had looked at where the pond is proposed. The proposal today is to make it, you know, yes, it's big, it's only 3 feet deep. it's landscaped, it's grassed, it's not rock. Before we had it deeper, so it had to be rock. We're proposing a bigger, wider, less shallow pond, so it can be a community amenity, and we can look at sizing, we can do those things, but that is in the low point of our project, which is also the low point of the road that has the potential of controlling UDOT's problems as well. So if I have to retain the 25, but then also still essentially contain the 100, because there's no place for it to go.
Yeah.
So you need a storage calculation for a 100-year storm drain pond.
Yep.
But you don't want a big pond.
We need to, as it says, we discussed potentially controlling that more local instead of a full regional one. And so that's to say you have that large a pond, it's especially right next to UDOT facilities, you're going to run into some potential future issues. And so that's why storm drain is going to be a big item on this, to try to control it in a way to meet our code, because we need to control it.
Yes, I totally agree. I'm asking for help and solutions of, we've set back the open space to give a corridor for the expansion of SR 198. So we're trying to plan for that in the future. I just don't see how we can get away from a big pond at the low point to contain a 100-year storm. Even if we contain the 25 up on top, you're still going to have the requirement of, well, where's the 100-year storm going? The answer is, well, can it leave the site? No, it can't. No. So I got a big pond at the bottom to contain the 100. If I'm containing the 100 at the bottom, do I need to contain the 25 at the top?
So John, can I comment on this?
Yes.
So Ken, I don't think that we're saying no to what you proposed. We're saying that so going back to our storm drain master plan that was approved 1.5 to 2 years ago, there are certain criteria that we try to meet. LID is one of them. Localize is another one. All of those things. So a retention pond is a viable solution. We're just looking at it going, have we looked at all of the other options and that? So a storm drain plan, a storm drain study for this specific site would address, we've looked at this, we've looked at that, we've looked at these as possible solutions, and here's what we're coming up with. We're not saying no. It's just a matter of making sure that we're looking at what all the possibilities are, and you know, quite frankly, having a usable amenity down there is not a bad thing. Although a lot of grass and that is more than likely going to get dedicated to the city for both storm drain purposes and park purposes. We're just trying to look at it to make sure that we're doing things the very best that we can to make use of both your land and future resources like watering, mowing, you know, storm drain capacity, all those types of things.
Okay.
So can I ask a question? Are you suggesting that in lieu of the big pond, to do more in place retention up above, or are you talking about doing both of them?
It may be a combination of both of them. That's, it says Norm mentioned in that study. So looking to say, hey, here are the options we've looked at, and based on that study and that look, this would be our recommendation.
And what is that?
That's up to you guys to provide that to us. So that's the question we're asking is this the best solution? It is A1, but is it the best? That's what we're needing.
But in your opinion, what is the best?
I don't think I've got enough information to answer that question.
About them other open space areas, could they be smaller retention ponds that can take off some of
Yeah, the HOA areas, the potential HOA areas might be somewhere. So one of the things to look at, Ken, I think you've already alluded to without being explicit, and that is that it's great to infiltrate up high, but if it's just going to come out in somebody's basement or under a future road because it's such a steep grade, that's not the best plan. Again, we just need to know that. We just need to have you evaluate that and make sure that we're doing But Wade's got a good idea too. Those HOA green spaces may be an area where you could put some of it.
Okay,
So,
we'll do it.
okay, there is a considerable amount of other red line comments that we've got from this last submittal. We won't go through those planning and zoning comments on those. We'll get those to you. We won't go through each and every one of those on this
Can we
one.
talk about a few things and
Yeah.
maybe at this point it's more just a understanding. Could you zoom out a little bit? Could you describe to us what you're proposing in the open space? I see that road up, like what exactly does that parking, the lighter green area, what does that include? I can see some angle parking, but
I think it's the last sheet of your submittal that we've submitted to you 2 or 3 times. You go clear it back.
Work on.
And there's specific plan design pictures. You know,
So the C7 parts of it.
Oh, sorry, wrong one. Apologize about
so
that.
are you just gonna, so I see the road there. Are you just having the one trail go down from that parking lot and then you and the HOA common
No,
areas?
what there is that, you know, as we listen careful to what both bodies of the city council planning commission, we're angling towards one of the best bike parks in the whole South Valley. And so there'll be multiple, and
Part
we've given you
two.
those packets.
Yeah, and I've looked through it.
There's probably 15 miles of different types of trails that come
But that
down.
first page is not showing it all.
No, we don't have a mountain bike trail.
Okay.
But if you look at all the concepts we've given you, there's a ton of them. You look at that
Okay.
one right there.
Right, and I've seen that, but I'm just wanting to make sure that first plan is showing a little bit. It's like giving us a taste, but
The only thing we've shown on that first plan is there's a drive pathway. You can drive up to the top and park.
Right.
You can take, whether it's equestrian or whether it's for bikes, that's all we've shown. And then if you scroll down, John, you'll see an illustration. You gotta scroll up. So you can see what we're proposing up at the top right there. That's the parking up top. So there's a pavilion, there's a couple of pavilions, there's a spot for horses, there's parking for unloading and where cars and trucks can turn around and go back down the road.
okay, so that's just a loop. So it'd just be the angled parking and then a loop up. Do you have anything in the middle there? That's I guess what I'm getting at. Is it
No, we're
just-
gonna try to keep it as natural. I mean, if you click on any one of those or expand any of those precedents for parking up there, you can kind of see what we're talking about in that corner.
And then on the plan that we show, we just show those major points of connection, like the A trail that will connect this open space with another open space. You know, the mountain biking, they don't like how engineers lay out mountain bike trails. They just want to do it, you know, where they crash the most. Let's just keep this up.
Well, and we'll have to lay out to match grade. Yeah. But then we've got multiple clubs that are anxious to participate. And we want to coordinate that through the city.
Okay.
And we'll lay it out for specific use.
So I guess back to is there enough parking there? I mean, I think what you're proposing is spectacular, and my worry is just that we're gonna have so many people up there that there's not gonna be enough parking.
Well, the fact that it's a gravel, parking lot, if it needs to be expanded, it can be expanded. But based on all the input we can get, we think it's enough. Because the way people approach it is they do a drop off and then they park down a lot.
Okay.
And so we're spreading parking for these particular amenities over 3 different locations, 4 different locations.
But this is not just intended to be a high spot for trails down below, but it could be a spot for access to trails from up above. So there could be. I just am wondering if 20, and I was looking at that middle area and wondered if I'm just talking out loud of making sure that
I think when we get to those specifics, what I'm really hoping for is the city designated committee to talk about. Saying here's what we think what the real use is going to be, because ultimately this is a city amenity, right? We want the city to drive.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to bring up is is in the PUD, we have a requirement that says that the perimeter of the development should have fencing now. In this case, go ahead. Ryan.
Sorry, I told you incorrectly. So it is not the entire PUD, it's just the multifamily, it's in 1066.
Okay, so still,
Yeah.
instead of having the perimeter of all your multifamily, it might be worth looking at a little bit closer and putting fencing where it makes sense, because you got some grades that are so steep that does it make sense to have fencing on a really steep grade? Now, I think where feasible, we want to have that so that people aren't encroaching into the open space. But you know, with the perimeter requirement, I just wanted to kind of, you know, make sure that what we're doing makes sense.
Is it fencing between multifamily and single family residential, or is it multifamily and open space?
It says perimeter of the multifamily section. Yeah. So
essentially it'd be,
But where John's going right now, I don't see that there's any sense to fence next to the
right through here.
areas, but down against where there's houses and where there's potential commercial, it absolutely makes sense.
Right.
So we're all for.
So I think maybe just providing that detail of where you feel fencing makes sense, and then we can look at it closer and make sure that we're on the same page with how that works.
Okay, I'll just say, kind of go around the room again real quick to see if there's specific comments from fire.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, I know they've got it noted on there, but with the homes that fall in the wildland urban interface, which I anticipate is most likely going to be all the homes along Steep Rock Road. The homes that do fall in that WUI area will have to be fire sprinklered, along with any homes that are on a road with a grade of 10% or higher for, I believe it's 300 feet of length for 10% grade, which I believe is probably Gray Butte. I think
Yeah,
it's the,
you've got Gray Butte, Steep Rock Road through here, I believe. You got some steeper grades right through here, crest up, and then drops down on this side to the going north. This one is a steeper grade. Grade Cliffs is relatively flat.
So one thing I'd
Yep.
like to question on that is, Jason, I've been through this in another city, but the fire sprinkler versus a different kind of building material. There's fire officials in Alpine when we were doing a similar project that said, you know, you put bar tile roof on, that's more appropriate as a fire thing to control fire than the fire sprinklers. So I would suggest that we look careful at that. In my home that I built in that, I put fire sprinklers in, and I wish I would have. I wish I would have done a bar tile roof, because I felt that it protects the structure a lot better. So
What kind of exterior are those homes along in that little interface on the east side of that steep rock road? What kind of exterior are you thinking?
well, I think that it will have to be, you know, it'll have to fall inside the zoning ordinance of the zone. But my expectation is that responsible owners will want to do things that, you know, are appropriate. I mean, it's not like it's a heavily wooded area above it. It's going to be a lot of sparsely vegetated, and access is going to be a challenge. So whether we have to be more restrictive in what our exterior products are, or, you know, I just think we need to look at it as a whole.
Also, those lot sizes 101 going up there on that side of the road, they range from a half an acre to an acre plus.
So they're not going to be a vinyl siding. They're going to be more stucco or a hardy board type stuff.
And I have no problem if we determine that that's the best thing to do, to put that into the building requirements. I think that we want to anticipate all the potential things to make this.
So what you're suggesting is maybe a plat note that specifies certain building materials on certain lots.
Well,
And it obviously that need to be approved by our fire department. That's something that other jurisdictions would look at, but
It's more of compliance with that urban wildlife interface, to where they list out, you know, included and excluded building materials and
the landscape, maintain the landscape buffer and all those best practices.
I think that's something that can definitely be looked at. I mean, I think it'd be more than just a roof type. I think it'd be, a different class, not a type 5 building material, but
Schmidt hardy board or something like that.
Right.
Non-combustible material.
Yes.
On the outside, that's gonna hold it from getting in.
Yeah.
We'll definitely, we can reach out with Alpine. I'm interested.
So
to
like
see what they've
the
done.
bar tile roof, it's a cement.
Right, bar tile roof with the hardy board cement backer board instead of a vinyl side.
Well,
It's gonna melt.
Just so you know, we lost that battle. I had to put the fire sprinklers in. They went off once, and I wish the house could just burn down. It makes such a mess. I would much rather put that much money outside protected.
Well, I'm definitely interested in looking at it.
You bring your popcorn?
Dirt construction. We're just wondering, when's the
Well, the building official, Randy, had to step out for a minute, but we'll also include him on those discussions we wrote through.
Identify that certain zone that basically has. building
Like,
Hey,
we'll have
hey,
that
Jason
conversation.
Bond,
Yes.
is that, so it's my understanding that we're still in the process of waiting and working on a development agreement. Is that something for this project? Is that something that we could put in the development agreement as it's run through and discussed and looked at by fire?
Yeah, I would definitely put it in there as well, but I like the idea of even going one step further and putting it as a plat note, just because that'll be probably the most visible spot for future homeowners to look at. Homeowners aren't gonna look in the development agreement, but they will likely see it on a plat. So I think having it in both areas would be great. Is Ben Bailey still there?
No.
Okay, I was gonna say Lone Peak Fire might be your.
But you remember, he just,
Oh, yeah.
Carl,
I had many conversations with him about it.
Carlisle?
Carlisle was first, and he wanted it. And then when he left, next day.
So, okay, we'll work on those options and getting it in development agreement. So
Down on your multi-units, you got some covered parking, and it's hard, obviously, two-dimensional. What's the clearance between there? We still have to be able to get big engines through there.
What the drive aisle is,
Yeah.
it's 26 feet.
In between the covered parking stalls? Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's just hard. I just wanted to make sure that that's there.
And on those, on your 14 plexes, due to the height of those will have to be fire sprinklered with a type 1 standpipe on them.
And that's architecturally driven, so we're kind of.
there is, again, it's not showing this, but there is a overhead power line, Bucky Mountain Power, that runs right through here. That it goes over this parking, through this parking, and over these covered. So that may also impact with the height of the building, proximity to those overhead power lines. So just as a note on there, as that rolls forward, if that power line runs through there. So anything else from fire? At this point, okay. Ben?
Yeah, I do have a couple of different things. One maybe crazy idea, and one a couple other political considerations. I'll start out with the idea that was brought up by
My name is Jason.
actually American Speaker, actually. During our meeting with him on this past Friday, and he was showing a retention basin and trying to make it up by daybreak or something like that. I can't remember where it was.
It's in daybreak.
But trying to make a retention basin more usable and more enjoyable. And maybe it's not so crazy because it ties into the biking aspect and whatnot. But what they did with their retention basin is they graded it out as the BMX bike track, and they left it, just dirt and or natural vegetation. It wasn't grass that was maintained or anything like that. And he was working up there, and it was just an amenity that was used by the community like crazy. The kids loved it, the parents loved it, and it ties into the whole biking issue. And,
The only thing with is that it might cut into the capacity of your retention basin if you have these homes.
it depends on if you go lower, you bring some of the material back out and whatnot, maybe it offsets something.
Yeah.
But that's something to consider. I'm looking at things from more of a political aspect. as an amenity that may be really beneficial and tie into that whole biking aspect. Granted, it's different than mountain
I think that's a great idea. My only concern for the city would be there's going to be a lot of visitors.
Yeah,
Call volume will go up.
We're expecting a lot of people.
So
that would just be one more thing.
Yeah.
Eagle Mountain, they have, they have several large KV corridors, power corridors going through between the ranches and the town center. They also have the Kern River gas line. So they have a pretty substantial corridor that's like hands-off. They have something very similar. They call it their mountain biking terrain park. That's where they have, the little wood thing that you
There's pictures in there.
crash over and things like that. So I mean that place is another opportunity to change that amenity instead of grass and soccer fields.
Are you pushing away though? I mean, are you hesitant to do that much grass for soccer? Is city demand not high in that area?
We have the 8 acres we just put in on the south end of town of the soccer fields, and soccer fields are a great amenity too. I'm just kind of thinking, the mayor just brought it up just recently, and he was talking to some of the mothers who are out there watching their kids and how much the community loved it. And it's just a different type of amenity as opposed to the soccer, where we have 35 acres down to the south that could be continued the regional soccer facility.
I haven't considered it, but I love the idea.
So
I think it's a great idea. I know that you've reached out to someone from your side has reached out to our community services director to get his take and ideas of different recreational amenities that might be there. But I think, and this might even be something in the future we can invite him to, just to make sure we're all on the same page of what recreational amenities are there. But I agree. I think to stick with the mountain biking theme, I think that would be a great amenity, and it might be a great thing for a retention basin, where sometimes retention basins are steep where it's hard to get maintenance equipment down in there to do that. So
yeah, and if you have parking for the into that was gravel, so it still infiltrates and whatnot, but it allows for drop off of the on the hillside, and then you can park down below and still meets the needs of the.
You can see on that far north piece we planned on parking lot, just because we've got to have different people. So there's some
Sure.
maybe we keep that, but maybe on the other side, maybe there's, maybe that dual use isn't just recreational, maybe it's parking that can also percolate water.
Yep. And close the highway so fire can pick up all the kids when they get hurt.
And just make through quick. So
You're on the ski patrol today.
That was knowing where Mayor Mayor Hunter was coming from, that would earn some points there. It's a good topic. The second is from a political concern, the council, I know it was brought by engineering at the beginning, that single point intersection. They're going to be highly concerned. I wanted to make sure that there's 2 access points fairly early in the project, but that really leads to the second thing, and that is from a political point of view. We've had several developments brought forth in the past where it had a phasing plan where all high density was in the beginning phases and all the more difficult homes to construct were in the latter phases. And the council typically has not approved those. They've wanted to have a phasing plan that staggers them so that we recognize that we need to have a certain amount of profitability to make the project go forward. We want to respect that and work with you in partnership on that. But the fear factor on the city council side is that all the low-hanging fruit gets built out, and then the project dries up and it gets handed off, and the upper part never gets developed.
So in answer to what John started with, if the phasing plan were proposed different, does that take a lot of your concerns away?
It does.
Modified phasing plan could.
Because one of my theories is that I think that the total overall building permits in Santaquin is limited. I'm going to have to appeal to multiple types, and so it would make sense to push forward to that single family dwelling, so it could have 2 different products to market.
Exactly. And that's what the council would prefer. I know they've looked at that at Bella Vista. They're looking at that at Beacons and other places. They just want to make sure that they're coming in
Getting a balance.
and the profitability of the one, which really makes the other viable, really goes forward.
So again, I wonder if it's something we consider is if, rather than connecting, we'd have to connect with the utilities, but could we have phase 2 jump over that interim townhome and develop the far north side and have it come in almost independent or something like that?
We'll let you guys figure that out and whatnot, but just, I know from a council perspective, political. That's the biggest concern is that.
Okay. Wait.
Assuming right there, east of the I mean, 25 years storm we've got three of them in the last 10 years that have sound water, right? Where
Well, then we're not gonna have you for 75 minutes.
just historically, there's been a lot of water right there where it says top lot.
We have a mudslide that goes right down.
Mud flows and high water flows that go right there. So that's one thing. Protect the homes right there. That's where it's going.
Right through here.
Drainage off that mountain, if we get a 1 inch plus storm in an hour, it's coming there.
Yep.
And that's historically like 3.
Yep.
So just a thought.
Okay.
Something needs to be looked at before you go there.
No, have something to say.
Did you have something to say, Norm?
Yeah, so I believe that John will want to check into this, but I believe the NRCS work that we're working on with Horrocks right now would address that particular area with the debris basin just to the east of our East Park. That's where that drainage comes down, right, Wade?
Yes.
Okay. That now keeping in mind that nothing is built there now, there's no funding approved for it, and the final design isn't done. We've been through step 1 of 3 steps. The first one is the supplemental EA. That's in national right now getting reviewed, and we're waiting to find out if we get final design money for that, but we're probably several years away from an actual construction and complete pending of funds for both final design and construction. But that is an area that is currently being studied by that NRCS debris basin work that we have in our study that's going on.
Thank you. Anything else, Wade? Rod?
I already spoke my piece.
Okay. Jason, have anything else? Okay. There is action that needs to be taken on this. To say with the amount of items that need to be addressed, I anticipate it be tabled, but with that, if there's any other comments, I'll look for a motion. Motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Been seconded. All in favor, we say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hey, motion's been tabled. We'll work on getting these red line comments in. So we can start working through that. Well, there's some, we're still haven't filed all our comments on that news yet. We're anticipating that too. So, yeah. Thank you. We're gonna get those over to yes. We're completing So the next item on the agenda is a request for a stop sign located at the intersection of Stone Hall Drive and Blackstone Drive. So that is, if I can find it, there we go. So this is a new, do we have any, do we invite the,
No, I didn't need a response from, but I did let them know that it was anticipated to be on this agenda.
do we have anyone in the waiting room to just on that? Do you know of any?
Like,
So roll that, that's this particular intersection request is. The request asks on essentially speeds going through there and traffic, that 2 additional stop signs be placed for the east-west legs of the intersection. Currently, there are stop signs located on the north and south legs of the intersection. Some background on this particular roadway and this development. Stone Hollow Drive was designed and built to be a major local, to be consistent with that. Big one. So it was intended to be a little more asphalt there to allow for traffic volume to go through there. It is designated as 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on that road. So it's not necessarily a faster road, but it is a wider road to accommodate traffic. On that, we'll kind of just go over this is the is done by the DRC. So far, on that. So around room again. Okay. I'll turn that over to Ross.
Just to turn it off. Impacts the people. Yeah. So it falls in the flash. They didn't want to take care of it. So and I also anticipate and he said this was that about that. But in the statement of he felt there was access. The height when these just a couple of 27, which just posted speed. After 11 p.m. So it wouldn't be a pedestrian period where there would be, kids would be out on that street. And I see one of the other concerns was the construction workers in the area, which is really a very problem. But they have areas that, at least at this point, other than that upper northwest corner, there's a few big lots that potentially used to hold against the problem down drive. TV plans, I don't know what's going on. TV, schools, parks plan, increased pedestrian traffic to the intersection. So,
I see it now, but nobody is
I don't really see any through streets really that maybe at some point could be funnel traffic down to that intersection, and for a major collector or
Major local.
the traffic counts are actually really like much higher. And you usually just have those outliers. Somebody wants to go down the street. But most people do that. I was just surprised that we didn't have 9 days. So where I stand, I would recommend recommendation would be the top line initial traffic at this point. Change if you may have some
It's good information on there. Just kind of, okay. What do you have?
Anything with a slow, I would.
So
Which is the audio is picked up to the computer.
So his comment essentially was due to the grades of the road to plow that road, if we put stops on there, it would make it difficult, to plow those roads.
Yeah.
Ben?
I think the other thing to consider is the topography there. Everything south to east slopes downward. And so the majority of the traffic doesn't come up to that road. It really comes down to most of this traffic comes down to Santaquin and then out this way. And the traffic up here, they don't turn into this, they come down. All right, so most of this traffic is not impacting. It's really going to be the traffic from the road itself, or if you're in this area, you actually typically will come down Stone Way and come out. So that's why the traffic counts on this road are probably fairly low. And I agree with police that the impact is actually relatively low, and with Public Works that the stop sign would be detrimental. And there's nothing you can do about the topography. This was a feature, and this was designed to be this way, and I don't know that any additional traffic control is necessary. This isn't a defect, this is the way it was designed.
Yep. Okay, fire?
I've got it ingrained in my head. I work with enough engineers that I've heard it. I've heard it so many times that I hear it in my sleep that stop signs are not meant to control speeding. So I think that's something else, that if there is speeding in the area, then it's probably something to report to the police department, and they can watch it when they are available to. So stop signs shouldn't be used as controlling speeds, but enforcement is the way to address those concerns.
I mean, me and Rob was just having a discussion. If you're driving 25 mile an hour through these high density subdivisions, you can't. I mean, that's too fast.
Yep, need things, yep, need to go
It's
slower.
almost impossible.
It feels a lot faster than it really is.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then when you're that tight and cars parked on their own.
Well,
15.
what that really lends to is the perception that people are going fast, but if
Right.
on a 9-day period, the highest is 28 miles an hour, that's only 3 miles an hour faster than the speed limit, and only a few at 27. I think it's the perception because of the narrow streets, but the narrow streets is actually, again, a feature because the narrow streets slow people down. And so most people are not traveling over 25.
Average speed was 12.
And so for all of the aforementioned reasons, I would make a motion that we do not change the traffic configuration of this area and deny the request.
So before we do that, I just want to see if fire had any comments in
Nope.
regards to anything additional. So I do have a motion, second by Wade. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. So we will not be making any changes to traffic control on that intersection. Okay, next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from April 28th. If there's not any comments, I'd look for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
The second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes were passed unanimously.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Ready to go. Okay. Thank you for everyone and all their help.
So bring it.
Stop share.
Don't want to cut into Wade's lunch break.